Hey, this is Paul from Passy's World of ICT, and today we're going to be doing database queries. This is going to be a really long lesson, so we suggest that you use our start database and the full guide instructions. They're available on the full lesson on our website page, and there's a link in the video description on how to go to that page and get those download items. Now, even if you're not doing our course and following along, you don't necessarily have to have our download items, so you might have your own Access database. This is going to teach you a lot about queries, the different types, but it's going to be a very long lesson, so be warned. There will be times where we'll just say to take a break, and that's probably a good idea to do that. So let's get started. So databases like eBay, when you search for things, there's millions of things on eBay, but you can like type in something very specific like those Asics Gel Kaono men's running shoes, my favorite shoes for running in the gym. Those ones there, and then you just get a listing of those. So that's called actually doing a query. Now, eBay is a pretty amazing database. As of late 2018, when they were reporting this on the internet recently, that's the kind of data volume you've got on eBay. So the fact that you can type in for those gel runners and get your answer so quickly up on your screen, believe me, is an absolute miracle. All right, now what we're going to be doing in this lesson is we're going to set up queries to extract, sort, and filter data out of a database. This will be the Passy's Bargain Barn database that we've been using for the other lessons, but you could equally do it with your own database. We're going to be getting date reporting to find out items which are old stock items, and we'll be doing mathematical calculations as well and showing how to do them, including doing totals calculations, which will be interesting. Okay, we really recommend you get our start database and follow along with the lesson of the guidebook. That's probably the easiest way to do it. This is actually the guidebook that we're using right now. So we've designed some tables, and in a previous lesson we set them up. Just note on the stock items tables that we've changed the payment made field from short text into a yes, no field. And that actually gives us now some tick boxes. So we've got tick boxes now where you can have unticked means no, and if you tick it, that means yes. And we've also got the sellers table, which links in with that stock items table. So we know from the seller ID on the stock item who the person is and their contact details and some banking information here. There is also a buyers table, which we won't be using a lot in this lesson. All right, now the first one we'll do is just one with the query wizard, all right? So on the sellers table, we've got all this information, including bank account information, which we don't actually want to share around with too many people at all. So it'd be nice to just get a subsection of this table. So if we just had the people's names and their addresses and their phone numbers, okay? And we can do that with a query, and it's probably easiest in Access to use the query wizard to do this. So let's go across to Microsoft Access and check that out. So here's our sellers table, and like we were talking about, we only want these middle fields and not the ones on either side, so we'll just close that table off. While we're clicked on that table in the left-hand column, you go to Create, and we want to just use the query wizard for this one. So we're going to create and into query wizard. Okay, now we just want simple query wizard up here at the top. So we click OK. Now here's where you can select the actual fields that you want. Now we're not interested in the seller ID, but we do want the last name and first name. So you use the single arrow to click on them. If you wanted everything, you use the double arrows, and you can use the double arrows to put them back again. But we just want to pick and click the last name, the first name, the email address, and the phone. We just want those 4 fields, and we're leaving those 3 behind. So then we click on Next, and this is going to be called the seller's query. Open it in query to view the information. Yes, so you just leave those things as they are and you finish. And it's made our query here called the seller's query, and we've got the results that we want. Okay, so that's pretty much it for that one. So now we need to save it. So we save that query by clicking the top left-hand corner button. Now on your setup, you may not be seeing that query. If your thing is set up for just to see certain types of things, like just all the tables. You might have it like this. There's a little arrow here. You need to make sure that's always on. Now I've got to find it. We're on all tables. We want it on object type, and we want all accessed objects. So make sure it's object type and all access objects, then you'll see your tables and your queries. So anytime you want to run that query, we can just double click on it and run it. If you're on the home page, you could go back into different views, but we won't do that with this one. So that one is completely finished and that one's done. Now our next query is going to be a bit more involved. So you can see there, if you get the guide, it'll show you step by step everything to do. Now we're skipping down to here. Now this one's a bit more involved. We want to use the stock items table, and we want to take out this information, the status, price, description, and the start date. And we want to link that up with who the seller is and their contact information. And the order we want it in is description, price, listing date, status, first name. Okay, so let's get to work on that over in Access. All right, this is a more involved query. So while we're clicked on the stock items table here in the left, we're going to go create. This time we need query design. Okay, now the first thing we do in query design here is pick the tables that we want. Now we want things from the sellers table, so we're going to add that one in. And we want information from the stock items table, so we're adding that one in. Okay, if you also made a mistake and added buyers in and then closed it, you can just right click on this and remove the table, and it's right click and show a table if you want to add a table back in. So that's just show and remove. So I'll just remove that. Now Access has got plenty of room here, but for some reason it's squashed up our table. So you can just grab the ends and stretch them down a bit so that we can see everything. And so that's got everything shown. And because it's a relational database, we've set the relationship that seller ID and the stock items can link over to seller ID and the sellers to get the information. Now I have to remember the things we wanted. The first thing we wanted was description. So the easiest way is to just go into description and double click, all right? Now the next thing we wanted was we want price, listing, date, status. So price, listing, date, and status. Okay, now you can drag as well. So we can get on price and you can drag it down into this box here. Status, and we wanted the listing date, but I find it easier to just double click these. So listing start date. Then for the sellers, we wanted their I don't remember, I think it was first name, last name, email, and phone. So we've got their contact list. Let's just check that here. We wanted the first name, last name, email, phone. Okay, so that is all set up to go in Access. And now there's a few different ways to run this query. Up the top left-hand corner, if you're in design view, there is a run button with an exclamation mark. You can click that one. You can go view back to datasheet view. That will run the query. And another way is right down in this bottom left-hand corner, right-hand corner here. There's three little icons. There's a designer, an SQL, and a datasheet view. If you click on datasheet view, that will run the query as well. So hopefully that wasn't too confusing. While we're down here, let's just click this bottom right-hand corner one that's datasheet view. So that runs our query, and we've got the description here, the price. You can move these fields a little bit to make them wider if you need to. We've got the listing start. Now we can't really read that. If you go to the right-hand side of that field and get the double arrows, then push your mouse button down and drag, we can just stretch that out a little bit. We've got our first name, last name, email address, and phone. So that's looking really nice. Let's save this query. So if we got the top left-hand corner and click save, we don't want to call it query 1. This one is called available items. Okay, I'll just check in the guide that that's what we are supposed to call it. So we've done our query, we've ran it. Available items, I think that's what it's called. So anyway, let's click OK. Now, on this query, these are the available items, but when we have a close look here at the status field, uh-oh, we've got a couple of items that are sold. So we need to exclude those from the query. We only wanted the ones that are currently available for sale. So how we do that is on our view icon in the top left-hand corner here, just click on that and go to design view. So we're going from the home tab into view, design view. We need to make some changes here. So on that status, we can add criteria. So down in this box just here is the criteria row. And what we want to do is we want to have that equal to available. Okay, now whether we have to put that in quotes or not, I think Access will do it for us. Okay, when we click, see, Access put the quotes around there. So you can just type available. Now, if we run that query to be different, let's go up to the left-hand corner this time and use the red exclamation mark. You can see now it is only returning the available items that we needed, and that was all done by applying that filter. Okay, so the filter does all of that for us. Now, we need to save that, so we go up the top left-hand corner and there's a save icon that we use to save that query. And we'll just use the X on the right-hand corner of that query to close it. Now, we've made that query available items down here on the left-hand side. We actually want to copy that one now. So we're going to copy it because we want to make another query from it. So if we right-click on it and we go copy, and then in this left-hand box here, this margin, you just go to the clear area down here and you right-click and paste. Now, it pops up here, paste as with a name. Now we want to paste this as the sold items because we're going to get a query now, which will just list out all of our sold items. All right, so we just click OK. In the left-hand side now, we have a query called sold items. So there it is sitting right there. So let's double click that and open it up. And let's go into design view to do some work. Now, see the stock items table, if you want a bit more room, there's a line here, this kind of really dark gray line. You can drag that down just so you've got a bit more room to see the whole table if you were struggling for room on a smaller laptop. So these things can be resized and moved around if you need to do that. Okay, now we need to modify this query. This time down in the criteria row, we don't want to have available this time. We can just get in there. These ones want to be the sold ones. We're after a sold items query. So we just make that change and put it in there and run the query. And now you can see it's giving us the sold items and who the seller was, their information. So that is handy now. We have that so we can keep track of the sold items. Now, the only thing is we might want to move things around here. So see how the sold status is here and the price is here. It'd be nice if the actual status and listing start date were a little bit in a different order. So this status here, what you can do is you can click up here, which highlights the whole column, and then if you hold down your left mouse button, see how we got that solid black line? And then you can drag it over one space and let go, and that will move it. Okay, now the listing start date, let's say we wanted to have that come next. Click in the top on the box where it's got the field name, so the whole thing's highlighted. Push down your mouse, get that black solid bar at the side there, and then you can move that across and we can put that there, okay? And you can also resize width. So you can move things around as well. It's just a matter of pushing and dropping them. All right, so our next thing is to do a calculated field. So we're going to work on that next and put some calculation formulas into, add it on to the existing query we've already got. So we'll just go in the guide so we can talk to you more about that. Okay, so we've done all these things in the guide here. We've got our available ones, we copied, we've made the sold ones, got our two sold ones, we've done some moving around. So it's really worthwhile going to our website and getting this guide. It'll help you a lot. Okay, now we've got the price here that the item sold for, and the way this business works, the bargain barn, is that they take a commission of 20%. So out of this $480 here, they're going to take 0.20 times 480, which is a $96 commission. Okay, now the remaining money will be given to the seller. So 480 minus the 96 commission, the seller's going to get themselves 384. Now we don't want to be getting out a pocket calculator to do this every time something's sold and we have to pay the seller. That's ridiculous. That's why we have Microsoft Access and computer systems, is to make our lives easier. So we can put this calculation into our existing query. All right, now how you do that is you use Shift and F2 or function Shift and F2 to bring up the zoom box in the next available empty sort of design view cell or column there along the bottom. So let's do that in Microsoft Access. So we'll just go there, and so we need to be in design view, so let's flick into design view. Our next available column is here. And so this is where we press Shift and F2, or you might have to do function key with Shift and F2 on your computer, and that will give you the zoom box. Now in the zoom box, we're going to put in a little formula into there, a maths formula, and we're going to calculate the commission. So we type in commission with 2 S's, and now in Access you don't use equals, it actually uses double dots instead, or a colon. So you have to do Shift, and above your semicolon you've got double dots. So we need to put that in, not an equal sign. And then straight after that we put a space, I think, and we put 0.20. Now to do multiplying in Access, it's like in Excel and other languages, you don't actually use an X because you might want to use the letter X for something. So you actually have to use the star symbol, okay? So the asterisk star symbol is multiplying, and we want to multiply by the price value. So you'd think you just put in price here, but that's not actually going to work because price is one of the database fields down here in the column. That's a column heading. To let Access know to go and look at the actual field, you put this in square brackets. So you need to find the square brackets on your keyboard and put the formula in the square brackets like that. All right, and then we click OK. Fingers crossed when we run this, it has calculated the commission, $480. We've got a $96 commission calculated there for us. Okay, now we don't have a $sign on that commission, so there is a way of enhancing our formula to get a $sign put onto there. So let's go back into design view, and let's go back to where we were working on the commission. Now I'll just show you, I might try and show you something else while we're here too. So Shift and F2, or function Shift and F2. Let's say that you forgot to put the square brackets around the price, which is a common kind of mistake. Click OK and run it. It will still actually work. So that it was something we needed to know, and that's OK. And when we go back, Access has smarts built into it, which is nice, which is put the square brackets there. So we're inside our zoom box. Now, we need to add a format statement. So how you do that is you type format here straight after the equal sign, and make sure you spell it properly. Format, and you open brackets, and we want it to do all of its maths calculation. Then we put a comma, and the format we want is currency. So then you type currency after here, and then you need to put the currency in quotes, so it has to be in quotes for currency, and then you close the square bracket. So this, having this format brackets around everything and putting a comma, currency in quotes, will actually do a little bit of work behind the scenes, and it will put a $sign in there for you, okay? So that's going well. Let's go into design view here and see what we're up to next. Next we need to calculate the balance. Okay, so the balance was the price it sold for minus the commission, and let's work on that. So the next available empty column after where we calculated the commission, if we do function shift and F2 to get into the zoom box, this time we're going to be doing balance. So balance is the name of what we're calculating. And then we, remember, don't have your equal sign. In Access you use the double dots. So the balance is going to be, and these are fields that we're subtracting. So it's going to be price in square brackets and minus, now let's try leave the square brackets off and see if Access will do them for us. And let's say okay and run that. And it has. So if we go back into design view, Access has probably tidied it all up for us. Okay, price should have had a capital T, but capital P, but actually Access was happy with that. So if we run it, that's all working a treat. So anything that sells in the bargain barn, the system has now calculated the commission that the bargain barn's going to keep and worked out how much the balance is that we need to pay to the seller. So that's some good work done there. And we're going to save this and call this one the sold items. So we're just saving that, and that one's finished and ready to go. Okay, so now that we've made a query, we need to pay some of the people. Okay, so let's close that. All right, at this stage of the video, you may want to take a little break because we've been going for quite a while. So if you need to, just take a break now. Okay, welcome back. What we're going to do now is we're going to go into the stock items table, and for those items which are sold, so the two items which are in a status of sold are the first two here, we're going to actually do some payment. So we're going to tick payment, that we're making a payment, and we're just going to put in some sort of bank receipt number that the bank gave us, and we're going to just put the payment date as today, which happens to be October the 2nd. And the next one we're going to pay that as well, pay the seller. So we used our phone, to log on to online banking, and that gave us some sort of receipt number, and we did that today. So we can mark that off that we've paid the seller that balance, which we calculated in the other query, and we're going to save that table. Okay, now if we run our sold items now, they're coming up, but we've already paid the seller, so we don't want that happening. So back in the stock items table, we also need to change the status now that they're sold. So now that they're sold, we change their status to out of stock. Now this is a bit awkward working all this in the tables for the business at the moment. Later on in the forms lesson, we're actually going to make special forms that can do all this processing, so you can do this on an online screen and not have to kind of be messing around in the raw data in the table like this. But anyway, they've been paid, the seller's been paid their balance, so now their status is put to out of stock. Okay, once that's done, the item's no longer in stock and everything's good. Now, if you run your sold items, those ones won't show up anymore because they were sold, but we've paid the seller and we changed them to out of stock. If we want to see them, you go back into design view, and this is how you do an OR query. So down on the criteria row here, it had criteria sold, and there's an OR row as well. So in the raw OR row, you can also put out of stock. So this should give us anything that's sold or anything that's out of stock, and you need to make sure you spell that properly. Okay, so if we run this one now with the OR statement, it's bringing up those ones that are out of stock. So we've just enhanced our sold items query a little bit there to also list the out of stock ones, and that was using an OR statement. Okay, we can also create a stock item query where we're going to choose the stock items. We're going to sort of choose whether we want available, sold, or out of stock ones, which ones we want to see. So how we do that is we're going to go to our available items query, and we're going to copy it again and go down into this white area in the left-hand column. And remember, there you do paste, and that will paste a copy of it. Now this one's going to be called the choose the stock status, is going to be this query. Okay, so we're just sort of trying to show you here quite a few things that we can do with queries in Access, and that's why it's such a long lesson. Okay, so this one we're going to be able to choose the stock status. So let's open that new one up and let's go into Design View. And what we do here is we need to highlight the current criteria. Okay, at the moment we've got this criteria here, stock is available. Now, what have I done here? Have I copied the right one? I've copied the available items one, I think. So is that going to be a problem? Probably is, because we made a mistake. So let's right click on that, and if you cut it, that'll be the equivalent of deleting it. All right, let's get this right. Sold items, we're doing a copy and then we're doing a paste, and this one's going to be called the choose stock status one. Get it right this time. Choose stock status. Okay, so choose stock status. We're opening that up. We're going into Design View, and that looks a lot better. Now see this criteria here where we had the sold or out of stock. And if you couldn't see that too, you can go Function Shift F2 down in these boxes as well to zoom in. So any box you're in, you can do your sort of Function F2 thing, but we're going to remove that criteria out of there so that we can see all of everything. Now, where we've got the status field here for status stock items, we're going to go down into the criteria box. So we're on the criteria row and we're in the criteria box for status, and we're going to Shift F to make a zoom box, and in the zoom box what we're going to do is we're putting a square brackets and we're instructing the user to enter the status as, so we're going to get them to type in what they want. Do they want available, sold, or out of stock? And then we just close our square brackets and we say OK. Now, when you run this, what it does is Access will pop up a parameter box for you where it says enter the status as available, sold, or out of stock. Okay, well let's look for out of stock. Type that in and then click OK. It runs our query and it finds those two out of stock items where we paid the seller for. All right, so let's go back into Design View and let's just run the query again. This time let's look for available items. So it should just give us all the available ones, provided we spell available properly. Let's just spell it wrong and see what happens. Okay, it doesn't give us anything. Well, that makes sense because we didn't spell it properly. Okay, so if we run this again, let's do available, spelling it properly, available. All right, so that gives us all of the available items, okay, which are still available in the barn at the moment for sale. Okay, so let's just save the changes to that. So that's how you can sort of enter your own data entry input. Okay, we're now going to go back to the seller's query and we're going to look at doing sorting. So in Design View, there's, as well as criteria, there's another one here called sort. Now, if we want them all sorted into last name order, because look, let's run the query. See how Canty, Smith's right up here, which is usually at the end of the alphabet. Vox should be right down the bottom. So they're not in alphabetical order. Now you can actually click here and do a sort A to Z, but we're going to do it in Design View, so it's permanent. So in Design View, there's a sort box here underneath last name, and if you click on that, you can go ascending, which will give us A to Z sorting of the last name. And you can see now they're all in alphabetical order. So we've done all of that, and we've got that, and it's now all sorted. Sort the available items query. Okay, so we'll save that one and close it. Okay, let's sort the available items one, and we're interested in price this time, sorting on price. So we're going to go into design view, and in that price of the stock items, let's just go into the sort box for that. And that one we want to do descending, so that way the most expensive items are at the top, because they're the ones we want to try and really push and sell if we were running that business, because they're going to generate the most commission. Okay, so you can sort numbers as well as sorting on letters of the alphabet like last names. So we just needed to show you that. Now, what Passy would like to do is get those expensive items there in a separate report. So anything that's more than $100 is worth advertising and marketing because it's bigger commission. So we want a separate query that's going to get us that. So our available items, we'll just right click on it here in the column, do copy, and then we're right clicking and we're pasting. This one's going to be called available items, and we're just going to put GT for greater than. Not for the fabulous Ford Mustang GT, but for greater than, and we want things that are greater than $100, all right? So we're just calling it available items GT 100. Now, if we go in that, in our criteria, in design view, underneath price here, in that criteria row, what we're going to do is we're just going to put greater than, the greater than sign, which you can get shift, and I think it's above your full stop period, dot type key, greater than 100. And when we run that, it should just bring us back the items which are greater than $100. And because we'd already sorted previously, if we go back to design view, we've got a sort, I think, on price as well. See, we've got in the sort box descending. So if you wanted it the other way, ascending, you could change it. And so it'll give you the ones that are just over 100 up to the most expensive ones there at the end. So we'll save that. And that's a good little report that can be used. Perhaps they want to advertise some items on social media, and we've got all that. Now, available items price GT 100 is a little bit long, so let's rename it. You can right click and do rename on any query. So let's just call it available GT 100. Okay, so we could just, then you just click off it, all right? But really there was enough room there, so if we right click and rename available items, it's just if you're using a small laptop, everything's squashed up and that might not fit. So yeah, right click and rename, and then you just click off it and it does the renaming. So that's how to do your renaming. All right, next we're going to look at joining up things in a query, and we'll show you what we mean. You might want to take another little short break now. If you want to do that, that's okay. Just pause the video. Okay, welcome back. Now, this one, we're going to go to our query which we got previously for the sellers. So these people where we're selling. Now, see how it's doing last name and then first name? It'd be nice if it just did their name, like Bob Canty, Argent Denota, Jack Jones, rather than sort of having it like this, because maybe we want to call them up on the phone and we want to say, hello, is this Jack Jones? And we don't want to be accidentally going, oh, is this Jones Jack? Oops, sorry, I was looking at the query and didn't read it properly. So if we go into design view here, there's a way of doing that, and we need to use our function Shift F2. We're just going to make a zoom box here on this last available column that's empty after phone. So we're just creating a zoom box. And how you do that is that we want to join up the first name. So you put square brackets for that field, first name. And then the way you join things up in Access is by using the AND symbol. So we're going to use the AND symbol, which is Shift and 7, and we're going to join that up with the last name, okay? And put that in square brackets because it's a database field, and make sure we spell it properly, like this. Okay, and let's give that a go. So that, in this last column, should be joining up first name and last name. So let's run that. So it's kind of doing it, it's calling it Expra1, up the top, Expra1, which isn't a nice name, but it is joining them, but it's squashing them together, a squishy squash, which doesn't look good. So we can make some changes to fix that. So let's go back into design view, go into our function Shift F2 box. So where it's put expression there, let's put something nicer like just name. Now the trick to get a space in between is you have to go the and join, then you do quotes, space bar, quotes to make a space, and then you need another and sign to join on the last name. So here we're joining up the first name and we're joining that up to a space that's in quotes, and then the space in quotes and is being joined up to the last name. So now if we run this, it's all nice. We've got name and that. Now, ideally, we want to move this guy back up to the front here. Okay, so have him at the front. Now, we can do that in the design view. So if we go back to design view, if you go up onto this light gray bar just above where name is and click on that, see how the whole column darkened? And then you push down your mouse and you drag that using the black bar, and that will take that up to the front. Okay, so if we run it now, that's right up the front. But we've still got last name and first name here, which is a bit confusing. We don't need them now. We've got our nicely formatted name. So back into design view we go. These little ticks here, that's whether something will show up on the screen or not when you run the query. So if we actually just untick the last name and untick the first name, well, what's going to happen then is, watch, we'll run it. They don't show up anymore. So now it's nice. We've got the person's actual name if we're phoning them up. Hi, is this Will Patterson? Oh yeah, it's Passy from the Bargain Barn. We got good news. Your bike's sold and we've got money to send you. We'll be coming into your bank account soon. And that's great. And you can SMS message them and all is good. So let's just save that. That's our new improved seller's query where we did some joining up and we joined up fields together. Okay, next we need to do some date queries, and this is going to be a little bit tricky because in the stock items table, things aren't up to date with the current date, although we're looking at a fixed version here. We'll show you what we mean over in the guide, so we're just speed reading through the guide here. We've renamed, we've joined fields. Look, we've done so much work already. Okay, this is where we're up to. Okay, changing the dates in the stock items table. All right, this lesson was made on the 2nd of September 2018. So you're going to be doing that after that date, obviously. Like now, I'm happen to be doing this on the 2nd of October, which you'd think was 30 days later, but I think it's because 1 August is 31 days. I'm not sure it's a whole 30. It's about a month later. Now, you're going to have to do some calculations to change the date. So the best thing to do is to go onto this website, timeanddate.com, and they've got calculators there. And you just click on the calculators and use the date to date calculator. Now, how that works is you put in today's date. No, sorry, you put in the start date. So this lesson was done on the 2nd of September 2018, so you need to put that date in. And for the end date, you just click on today and it'll put today's date for whatever day you're doing this lesson on. For us, it happens to be 2nd of October 2018. Okay, and then click the calculate duration. That'll tell you it's 30 days. So that means it's 30 days past when this table was originally set up with dates. That means you need to add 30 days to every date in the stock items table. Now to do that, there's another calculator on that same timeanddate.com website, which is a fabulous website for doing this, except I've just done a bad one there and lost everything. Let's go back. Okay, we worked out it was 30 days. So you go to the calculators, there's another one called Date Calculator Add Subtract, okay? So on that one, you just put in whatever date it is in the table that you need to fix up, like a stock item dated 25th of August 2018. And then you want to do add. If you do this drop down, you can do add or subtract. Make sure you got 30 days there. Run it. The result will be 24th of September. So you know that date of the 25th of the 8th needs to be changed to 24th of the 9th. So using the date calculator to help us or to help you working out how you need to update that table before we do this sort of date queries exercise. Run that and you can change your dates. And so we did that They're all old August dates, which we were playing around with on the 2nd of September. Now it's 30 days later. All these dates have been made 30 days later with the help of that calculator. All right. So that's just something you're going to have to mess around and do. So you might want to pause the video and do all that now. Okay, welcome back. Now there's a couple of other things we're going to do. We're going to change the gas stove kettle and the antique wall telephone and give them dates which are back in July by the looks of it. Oh yeah, these are Australian dates too. I should have told you guys that. These are day, month, year. So if you're in America, you'll need to do it, yeah, the other way around or work it out with your dates. But we're working on day, month, year here because this is in Australia. Okay, I lived in Virginia in America when I was a kid, but yeah, I've got used to day, month, year again. All right, that aside, we need to go over to Microsoft Access. So in this table right here, we're going to change a couple of things. So we do have an antique wall telephone there. It had a date of 23rd of the 9th. We're going to change that back to be, I think it was 5th of the 7th. July, and there was another item, this purple stove kettle. What were these dates changing to? Telephone's 5th of the 7th, and the 4th of July was kettle and telephone. American Independence Day, 4th of July. Okay, so the kettle was supposed to be, I don't know, one's the 4th, one's the 5th. So let's just make that the 4th of July one. Okay, and let's save that table. Click in the top left-hand save icon, and then we've done that. Okay, so now we're going to do some date queries. And we're going to take our available items query and make a new one. Okay, so we can close this table now. So close the stock items table. With our good old available items query in the left-hand side, we need to right-click and copy, and down in the white space, right-click and paste. And this one is going to be called greater than 30 days old. So GT 30 days old. Okay, so now it's got that one in there, greater than 30 days old, GT 30 days old. So we're opening that one up, and now we need to add some criteria. So in the listing start date column, this one here, so if you click in that gray bar, it all goes dark colored. This one right here, we're going to add some criteria. Now, we want dates which are more than 30 days old. Now, how are you going to do that? Well, good question. The way you do it is greater than, and then you do date. I've already messed up because we want dates before then, so it's less than. Now, could you just go minus 30 because we want things less than 30 days older from today? Well, I don't think you can. You have to put date brackets. Now, what is date brackets? Date brackets is how you do today's date in Access. Okay, so that's how we do it. We need to have less than date brackets minus 30. Okay, so date brackets is how you do today's date in Microsoft Access. So let's give that a run now. It's going to be things that are available. I think that's okay. So it's bringing up now that old telephone and that kettle. Oh, and it's also brought up a cabin tent, the green cabin tent, which had a listing start date of 31st of the 8th. So all of these things are greater than 30 days old. So under the business rules for the bargain barn, they can't stay there, and they need to seller needs to be contacted about that so they can come and collect them. So let's just save that one. And now we're going to sort of have two different ones because there's kind of a business twist with the bargain barn. So let's take our greater than 30 days old, right click and copy that. And then in the white space underneath, right click paste. This one's going to be called the charity items. So charity items If something's greater than 37 days old, so we'll just call it maybe greater than 37, we'll put GT, so that's more friendly than that mathematical sign. Maths is never friendly. Charity GT 37 days old. Okay, and that one's here in the left-hand column, so opening that up. Now, going to design view. This is pretty simple. We just want lesson date, today's date minus 37. So this in here, you can function shift F2 in there, although it doesn't really make it any bigger. So it's not a whole lot easier to see, but I just thought I'd show you that anyway. But we've got less than date brackets for today's date minus 37. So we run that. So these items back in July, they're well over 37 days old, and so they need to be taken out of the bargain barn and given to charity, and then their status gets changed to charity here so that they're no longer going to come up in the available items listing. So they're items that need actioning. Now, with the bargain barn, if your item is between 30 and 37 days old, that's the 1 week period where the seller can come in and collect it. So we need to make a query for that so that we can find items that need collecting. So we're just going to copy our charity one. So if we copy that and then right click down here and paste, this one's going to be called needing collection. So these ones are between 30 and 37 days old. Okay, so let's open up that needing collection query and go to design view. And here we've got date with the 37. So let's just zoom box this one. Okay, now how we do this is we need ones which are between 30 and 37 days old. So we have to use a less than date minus 30 and they are greater than or equal to date minus 37. Now that's getting very mathematical and people aren't going to go, oh, mathematics, I hate that stuff. And yeah, it is tough. So what this is doing is it's saying, find us anything that's less than date minus 30. So find us anything that's before, it's older than 30 days. But when we go back 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, we want to stop at 37 because once it's older than 37 days, going backwards, then it goes to charity. So we have to put a greater than or equal to date minus 37. So that should get us everything between 30 and 37 days. So let's give that one a go. And it's giving us the green cabin tent. Now on the 2nd of October, would the 31st of the 8th? Yes, that would be a bit over 30 days old, but it's not quite 37 yet for the day we're running. So yours will probably vary because you change dates. But the good thing is with this formula, the way it's using date brackets for today's date, whatever day you're running your query with, you still should get the same one coming up, the green cabin tent, but you might just have a different date in here. Okay, so that's been a lot of work on date queries, so you might want to pause the video and take a break. I think we've just got one more thing to do now, which is totals queries. Okay, welcome back. And what we're going to do here is we're going to make a little query that's just going to be a business summary. It's going to tell us how many items we've sold, what the total value of those sales was, and how much commission we earned off the sales. So we're creating a new query. And from the stock items table, we only need these 3 items, plus we need our commission calculation formula that we had previously as well. So let's go into Access and do that. All right, so this is going to be a tricky one. That's why I've left it to last. And we'll save that. Okay, so on our stock items table, click on that in the left, create, and we're going into query design. We want stock items table only for this, so we're adding it in, and we say close, then to close it down. We can drag this down so that we can see everything. Now, the three things that we wanted were the item ID code, the status, and the price, okay? Item ID code, status, and price. So let's grab them, item ID code, status, double click that to go in the next row, and price. So we got them in the 3 rows at the bottom. In here, remember, we're going to put in our formula. So if we can remember that, commission, and double dots, that was space 0.20 star for multiply, and that was the price in square brackets because price is a database field. Okay, now let's just run that. Now, what else did we want? Did we want any criteria? Yeah, we wanted criteria too. So for the status, for the criteria, we want just the sold ones because they're the ones we've made money on, or out of stock. Now, how you do the or out of stock is, see how there's an or line here? So if we put on the or line, out of stock, that's how we run a query that's going to get us the sold items is our first primary criteria. The or tells it to go look for something else. Hey, also check if there's status out of stock because we want those guys as well. So it's sold or out of stock. So if we run that, we only have those 2 out of stock items, and there's their prices, and it's calculating the commission we've earned. Okay, so that's all working well. And now we're going to get some totals happening. All right, so we need to go back to design view and see up the top here, while you're on the design tab, which design view takes you to, there's a total symbol, the Greek big capital E. I think it's called epsilon, I think. That's the symbol. Now, if you click that symbol, down in here, it's added total, but it's added these things. It's put group by, group by, group by, group by. Now we're going to change these group bys because group by can actually get you a range of different things. So on the stock items, based on item ID code here, we're going to do a count for that. So we want to count how many ID codes come up as an answer to this query, and that'll count how many things that we've sold. Status is where we've got our criteria. So for the group by on that, you change it to where. So that's how we do the selection. It's going to be status, where the status is sold or out of stock. So that one needs to be changed to where. And we don't want to show that one. So notice in the ticking for whether it gets shown or not, when we put it to where, that became automatically unticked, and we need to leave that unticked. Now, the prices that everything was selling for, that's going to be something we want to sum up and do a total for. And the commission, we want to sum up how much commission we got. So we change that one to sum. So fingers crossed when we run this, this should work. So we've sold 2 items, it's saying here, and that was $760 worth altogether, and we earned a commission of $152. Now the only problem is our 152 here isn't showing up with a $sign. We're so close, we're nearly there. All right, let's go into design view. How we do that is, remember this gray bar, you can click in there to highlight the whole thing. And then we need to right click and go to properties. Now properties here, we're going to change on properties the format. So this is a different way of doing the format, and it's got squashed off my screen there. So let me just go here and slide that back a bit so we can see it. And we're going to go for currency for the property. So remember last time we did it differently. We went into here on our formula, we went function shift F2, and we messed around with the formula, putting a format around it and currency and quotes and all of that stuff. We can do it a lot easier this way. So you click in the gray bar, highlight the whole thing, then you needed to right click and go properties. So let's just do that again. We're clicking in the gray bar, highlight the whole thing. While you're on there, do properties. On the format property, use the drop-down list here to put that into currency. Or if you're in Europe, I suppose you could use euros, but we just want currency, the good old $ type of thing. And if we run that now, our $ is there, and that's all done. So we're nearly there. It's going to be a really long lesson, but the thing is, at the end of this, you're going to know everything about queries. So we need to save this one, and we'll give this a name. This is going to be our totals query that we've made. Okay, and you can Google and research and find out more about group by and things like that. So that's that one done. Now, our last one is yes, no tick box queries. So if we go back to our stock items table and open it up, see how we have these tick boxes for the payments being made? Yeah, how do you write criteria to pick up things which are ticked and things which are unticked, okay? So we need to make a test record because both of our things are out of stock now. We want to sold things. So as per the instructions guide, we're going to the Harrow men's mountain bike here. Harrow, who make great BMX bikes, but also make great strong mountain bikes. And we're going to change that from available. That's going to get sold right now. We're selling that. And we're going to have that as sold. And we've now got a test record for the query. And we're going to run that in a query. So let's save it, sellers and stock items, and set up the following query. Okay, so we want to have things that are sold and not paid. Okay, so let's close that. All right, remember we had our sold items query so long ago. Down here in the queries, we've got sold items. We need to go back into that query and go into design view. So here we've got the sold or out of stock. Now we're going to add some more into here. So there's a slider right down the bottom. We need to slide across because we've got a lot in there. Here's our last separate available box here, and we want to have the payment made. So we're double clicking that. Okay, now if you want to find the sold items where we have paid the seller, the main thing here is how we're going to do the criteria. So let's actually just click in that black box there in the grey line next to the black box, select all that. Let's drag it over here where we've got a better chance of seeing it and slide this bottom part. Now we're after things which are sold or out of stock, and for the payment made, we want to know which ones haven't been paid yet. So how you do that is, all you have to do in here is put a no. So for tick boxes, the criteria is no. And if you run it, it'll bring up that mountain bike and see how payment made isn't ticked. Okay, it's bringing that up as one of our records. So that's how we can do a query of payment made, yes or no. If we go back into the stock items and we tick that one, so let's just go to where that men's mountain bike is, and you tick that the payment's been made and you save it. Okay, and you'd also need to like put in a bank receipt number, which maybe we'll do numbers so it looks better. Actually that was done yesterday. Let's put yesterday's date on that and save it. Okay, when we run that query now for the one which was sold but not paid, okay, it's not bringing anything up now. Okay, I've just messed up my sold items query. I was supposed to copy paste that and make it differently. So let's just change that to no or yes. Or just take all the criteria out and save that. Okay, getting a bit tired here now, and I guess you guys are too. So, all right, we can see things that are sold and we can see payments being made for all of them. So that's all good. And structured query language. Now, something else is on queries. You might have noticed down the bottom corner here, there's a thing that's got very bottom right hand corner, SQL. If you click on that, that shows you this query in structured query language, SQL. So if you're a fan of SQL, you can actually write SQL queries in Microsoft Access. We never do that. We just use the query designer for our queries, but just be aware that that can happen. And thank goodness, we are now at the end of this lesson, so we need to save the database. So we do File, Save As, make sure it is Access Database, and we do Save As. Then we find somewhere to put it, so we'll just put it here on our Access Database. So this will be our queries lesson, let's call it queries lesson done. And let's save that guy. Now, when you save, after that, there's this yellow line, enable content, or if you just loaded something up, it'll say that. So if you just click on that, then we can go in there. Let's find our charity items greater than 37 days old. We can run that query and there they are. Let's find things that need to be collected so we can call those people up. Let's call up Turnbull. He's got a last name and hasn't got a first name. Whoa, what happened there? Okay, let's go back into design view. We never got the person's first name, so we'll have to drag first name down to here, and then it's in the wrong place. So let's just click it to highlight it and drag it back over here. And let's run that again. That's a bit better. Now we know it's Melanie Turnbull. All right, so easy to update things in Access, that's all good. Saving the database. Now, if you are up to it at some stage, we'll just hit you up with a little assignment to test how well you know queries. So all of this was explained, everything we've just done in the guide. But yeah, here's a little assignment for you guys. Maybe don't do it now, maybe come back to the video and do it later. But yeah, you could have a go at making these two queries and see how you go with some basic query work. Okay, so that was a really, really long lesson. Thank you for your patience. And now we know a lot about queries, just about everything we need to know. And good to just hit it up and do it all in one lesson. Okay, so remember, down in the YouTube description, there's a link to our website where you can get the downloads that you need, which will help you out a lot with this. And we'll see you in the next lesson, which I think next we're going to be starting database screen forms, which is exciting. Okay, enjoy.